Jason Thompson had never imagined that a simple Friday night would turn into a life-changing event. A single dad juggling a demanding job at a bustling marketing firm. He had grown accustomed to long hours, endless client calls and sleepless nights, all while trying to provide a stable life for his 7-year-old son, Ethan. That particular Friday, the week had been brutal, deadlines looming, presentations falling apart, and his boss, Miranda Carter, a woman he respected but often feared for her intimidating perfectionism, had been unusually tense. She was always polished, commanding and meticulous, but lately she seemed to carry an invisible weight that made everyone at the office walk on eggshells around her. Jason, exhausted from working late and balancing Ethan's homework, barely noticed how the tension had reached a boiling point until the office's Friday night gathering. The company's celebration at a downtown bar was supposed to be light-hearted, a chance for the team to relax. But as the night progressed, Jason noticed Miranda holding her champagne glass a little too tightly, her laughter a little too forced, and her normally poised demeanor crumbling subtly before his eyes. By the time the event ended, it was painfully clear she had drunk far more than she should have, and she was completely incapable of driving home. Panic gripped Jason. He had always maintained a professional boundary with Miranda. He was her employee, after all, yet here she was, clearly in need of help. He couldn't ignore it. The streets were slick with rain, neon lights reflecting off the wet asphalt, casting a kaleidoscope of colors across the city. Miranda leaned against him, her designer heels slipping slightly on the pavement. Her perfume was overpowering, mixing strangely with the scent of alcohol and fear. "Jason, I can't get home on my own," she slurred, voice soft but urgent. Jason felt a pang of responsibility. This was the woman who held his career in her hands. Yet in this vulnerable state, she was simply human, fragile, dependent and entirely trusting. He took a deep breath, crouched slightly to meet her eyes, and said with quiet firmness, "I've got you. Let's get you home safely." Escorting her to his car, he noted the irony of the situation. The man who had spent countless nights worrying about bills, groceries and bedtime, stories was now playing chauffeur for the woman whose decisions had once seemed untouchable. On the drive, Miranda mumbled incoherently, sometimes giggling, sometimes falling silent. Jason focused on the road, steering carefully through the slick streets. Yet he couldn't help but feel a strange mix of anxiety and protectiveness. It wasn't just about getting her home. It was about the vulnerability she had shown, the trust she had placed in him, and the realization that people who seemed invincible could, in reality, be as fragile as anyone else. When they finally reached her apartment building, Jason helped her out of the car. She leaned heavily on his arm, and he guided her up the stairs, silently questioning how drastically the dynamics of their professional relationship had shifted in a single evening. Finally, he reached her door. Miranda fumbled with her keys, laughter bubbling out intermittently, until she managed to unlock it. Once inside, she collapsed onto her couch, mumbling a half-hearted apology for the mess, the drinks, the inconvenience. Jason, torn between professionalism and concern, smiled faintly, trying to brush off the awkwardness. "Just get some rest," he said gently. "That's all that matters." He checked that she was stable, made sure she had water within reach, and stepped out, making his way back to his own car in the cold night air, wondering if the evening would affect their professional rapport the next day. By the time Jason reached home, Ethan was asleep, a soft glow from his nightlight illuminating the tiny apartment. Jason sat quietly at the kitchen table, sipping lukewarm coffee, replaying the evening in his mind. He realized how strange and surreal it was. The man who fought tooth and nail to maintain a sense of control in his chaotic life had just shepherded his formidable boss through her own vulnerability. The incident left him both unnerved and oddly exhilarated, a reminder that life, in its unpredictability, sometimes forced you into roles you never expected to play. As he finally climbed into bed, exhaustion taking over, Jason couldn't help but wonder what Miranda would say in the morning. Would she act embarrassed, angry, or dismissive? Would she pretend the night hadn't happened? The uncertainty gnawed at him, but deep down, he knew one thing: he had done the right thing. And for the first time in weeks, he felt a quiet sense of pride, not for work achievements or accolades, but for simply being human, being kind, and stepping up when it mattered most. The following morning, the sunlight streamed softly through the blinds, casting warm stripes across Miranda's living room. Jason had agreed to meet her for the weekly project update, expecting some awkward tension after the previous night's unusual events. As he stepped into her office, briefcase in hand, he found her seated at her desk, unusually composed, yet with a faint smile that seemed both nervous and grateful. "Morning, Jason," she said, her voice steady, but there was something in her eyes that caught him off guard. Sincerity, appreciation, and a touch of vulnerability he hadn't expected. "About last night," she began, pausing as though searching for the right words. Jason's heart raced. He had rehearsed countless scenarios in his mind, none of which prepared him for what she actually said. "I can't thank you enough for what you did. I didn't just mean getting me home safely. It was everything. You treated me like a person, not a boss, not an untouchable figure, just human. And that's rare, Jason. That's really rare." Her words hit him like a wave he hadn't anticipated. He felt speechless, a blush creeping over his cheeks. In the office, Miranda was a force of nature, commanding, strategic, even intimidating at times. But here, in this quiet moment, she had shown him a side few ever saw, and it was powerful in its honesty and rawness. He managed a simple, "I just did what anyone would do," but Miranda shook her head. "No, Jason, most wouldn't. Most would have walked away, or felt awkward, or worse, judge me. You didn't. You were patient, considerate, kind. And that matters more than you know." Jason, usually composed and reserved, found himself struggling for words. The room seemed to hold its breath, the usual clatter of keyboards and office phones fading into a quiet stillness. She leaned back, her expression softening further. "I want you to know I see you, not just as an employee, but as a man who cares, who sacrifices, who puts others first. It doesn't go unnoticed." Jason's mind raced. Was this a moment of genuine connection, or was it simply gratitude tinged with corporate courtesy? He decided not to overthink it. He simply nodded, feeling an unfamiliar warmth spread through him, a combination of pride and humility. Over the next few weeks, their professional relationship subtly shifted. Miranda began seeking his input more frequently, valuing his insights, and treating him with a level of respect that went beyond standard office hierarchy. Jason, for his part, noticed the change, not as a manipulation or strategy, but as a genuine recognition of his character. He still came home each night to Ethan, helping with homework, making dinner, and reading bedtime stories. Yet now he carried with him an unspoken acknowledgement that kindness, integrity, and human decency could ripple into unexpected corners of life. And then, one morning, as he prepared for a particularly tough client meeting, Miranda appeared at his desk, holding a cup of coffee with a smile that made his chest tighten. "I wanted to make sure you start your day right," she said softly, placing it in front of him. "And thank you again for last week. You made a difference in ways you might never realize." Jason felt a lump in his throat, overwhelmed not by romantic notions, but by the profound impact of being truly seen, appreciated, and acknowledged. For the first time in months, maybe years, he realized that human connection, honesty, empathy, selflessness mattered more than deadlines, promotions, or accolades. The day continued with its usual challenges, meetings, and projects, but a quiet confidence had taken root within Jason. He understood that sometimes extraordinary moments came not from grand gestures, but from simple acts of kindness. And as he drove home that evening, Ethan chatting animatedly about his school day, Jason smiled to himself. Life had a way of surprising you, of rewarding courage and compassion in ways that were subtle yet profound. And he realized that whatever came next, he would never underestimate the power of doing the right thing, of showing care when it mattered most. For anyone watching, Jason's story serves as a reminder that small acts of humanity, can leave lasting impressions. In a world that often emphasizes success over kindness, he stood as proof that integrity, empathy, and courage could change lives, sometimes in ways you never even imagined. So if this story moved you, inspired you, or made you pause and reflect on the power of kindness, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories that touch the heart, challenge perspectives, and remind us of the extraordinary in the ordinary. Because every act of compassion, big or small, has the potential to leave someone speechless, just like Jason's story did.